The Portuguese Grand Prix was a motorsports event held for several years, mostly in the 1950s and then in the 1980s and 90s. It was a Formula One race between 1958 and 1960 and between 1984 and 1996. History: Boa Vista and Monsanto. The first event was held on the Boa Vista Street Course in Porto on the 17th of June 1951 as a sports car race. The Grand Prix was moved to Monsanto Park, Lisbon, in 1954 as a one-off. Sports car events continued until 1957, when the following year it became part of the Formula One World Championship. The first Formula One race was held on the 14th of August 1958 in Boa Vista. This circuit was situated in a hazardous area. It was laid out through the town and included sections of cobbled street and even tram lines. British drivers Stirling Moss in a Vanwall and Mike Hawthorn in a Ferrari were at the top of the championship table, battling it out for the first 8 rain-interrupted laps. Moss then pulled away as Hawthorn slipped behind Frenchman Jean Berra in a BRM until the British car hit spark plug problems. But the drama was only just beginning as a protest was made against Hawthorn, who, it was claimed, when he had restarted his car had driven a few yards in the wrong direction, which was against the rules and meant that Hawthorn was to be disqualified. As soon as he heard Moss headed to the stewards and told them Hawthorn had been off the course when he was spotted and that was not against the rules. Moss' evidence swung the decision, and no action was taken. Had the protest been upheld, Hawthorn would have lost 7.6 for finishing second and an extra 1 for recording the fastest lap. In the event, Moss's intervention allowed Hawthorn to win the driver's title by 1 point from Moss. This race was followed in 1959 by a Grand Prix at Monsanto, which was won again by Moss, this time in a mid-engined Cooper. Australian Jack Brabham hit a telegraph pole after swerving to hit the twice-lapped local driver Mario Cabral. Brabham was thrown out of the car and landed on the track. He was then narrowly missed by American Maston Gregory. After this race, Monsanto Park was abandoned, and F1 returned to Boa Vista in 1960. This race was won by Brabham in a Cooper. The Portuguese Grand Prix was then discontinued and did not return until 1984. The name was resurrected for a sports car sprint event in the Cascais Street Circuit in 1964. The following 2 years, it was run for Formula 3 cars. Estoril. The seeds for the return of the Portuguese Grand Prix were planted with the inauguration of the Autódromo do Estoril near the capital of Lisbon in 1972. The Estoril Grand Prix was held as a European Formula 2 championship event during the 1970s. This circuit was to see some of the most memorable and exciting races in Formula One's history. On the 21st of October 1984, Portugal returned to the F1 calendar, ending the season, where Frenchman Alain Prost won the race but failed to win the championship by half a point from his teammate, Austrian Niki Lauda, who finished second in the race. In 1985, the Grand Prix was moved to April 21 and held under heavy rain, the ideal conditions for Ayrton Senna to win his first race. From 1986, the race was held in what would become its traditional date, in the penultimate week of September. This race was won by Briton Nigel Mansell. 1987 saw Prost win his 28th Grand Prix, breaking Jackie Stewart's 14-year-old record, and 1988 was to see controversy between Prost and his McLaren teammate Senna. Coming out of the long parabolica corner, Prost lined up to pass Senna, but in an attempt to stop him, the Brazilian squeezed the Frenchman and he nearly hit the wall separating the pit lane from the track, but Prost kept his foot flat and passed Senna going into the first corner. Prost, a mild-mannered driver, was angry with Senna. This one incident between the world's two best Formula One drivers at the time led to one of the most famous sporting rivalries in history. 1989 saw yet more controversy. Mansell, now driving a Ferrari, overshot his pit lane entrance, and, against his team's gesticulations, went into reverse gear and backed into his pit stop position, which was against the rules. Sometime after Mansell went out, he was given the black disqualification flag. He did not go in, however, and as he came up to pass Senna, who was leading while passing the pits and being shown the black flag again, Mansell ducked out. Senna turned into the Ferrari and both drivers went off the track and into the runoff area. This incident just about diminished Senna's 1989 championship chances. Because he had failed to score any points at this event, he now had to win all three races to stand any chance of beating his teammate and rival Prost, who finished second to Mansell's teammate, Austrian Gerhard Berger. Mansell and Ferrari were both fined $50,000 and the Englishman was banned for the next race, the Spanish Grand Prix. 1990 saw an incredibly exciting race as Senna, Prost, Mansell and Berger all battled hard to gain top honors. Mansell made a very poor start and nearly took out his Ferrari teammate Prost, which allowed Senna and Berger to slip by and take first and second. Mansell and Prost fought back. It also saw backmarker Felipe Alliot nearly take out the leader Mansell and crash heavily at the second corner. Alex Caffey and Aguri Suzuki crashed the cars on lap 59. The marshals could not get the cars off the track and the race was called short. Mansell won from Senna and Prost. Berger finished fourth. 1991 saw yet more drama. Mansell then saw his own championship chances start to fade when he came into the pits to change his tires. However, the rear right wheel was not fastened down properly, and when Mansell went out, he only went about 50 feet before the right rear wheel came off. He was stuck in the middle of the pit road, unable to move. Mansell then reversed the Williams, and the Williams mechanics ran to the stricken car and lifted it bodily while in the pit road and fitted the rear tire properly, which took about a minute. These actions broke all sorts of rules, and Mansell, after coming out in 17th place, was shown the black flag. He had come up to 6th by the time he was disqualified. The race was won by the Englishman's Italian teammate Riccardo Patrese. 1992 saw Mansell win and Patrese have a horrific crash after he hit the back of Gerhard Berger's McLaren and was launched into the air while next to the pit lane. The car came down and scraped alongside the pit wall. No one was injured. 1993 saw Alain Prost win his fourth and final Drivers' Championship driving for Williams. He finished second in the race to German Michael Schumacher in a Benetton. 1994 saw a change to circuit in response to the deaths of Senna and Roland Ratzenberger at Imola. The S's corner before the Parabolica was made into a three-corner sequence. The race was won by Williams driver Damon Hill. A 1995 saw a huge accident at the start involving Yukio Katayama in a Tyrrell. The race was won by David Coulthard. 1996 saw Canadian rookie Jacques Villeneuve in a Williams pass Schumacher on the outside of the Parabolica, and the Canadian won the race. However, the 1996 running was to be the last Portuguese Grand Prix to date. The track tended to promote close racing and the weather was usually good, although as Estoril is only a few miles from the westernmost point of Europe, it tended to be affected by stiff breezes and rainstorms coming off the Atlantic Ocean. A bigger problem, however, was the local attitude towards the circuit. The FIA asked time and again for the track's facilities to be improved, but nothing was done. In 1997, the governing body called Portugal's bluff, promised renovation work was not done, and so the race was cancelled. Estoril was planned to be the final race of 1997 season, but it was replaced with the European Grand Prix, which was held at Jerez in Spain. Portugal's economy minister Augusto Mateus immediately announced that the government was going to provide the $6 million necessary for the work and that the race was not going to be cancelled, but he was wrong. In an effort to speed up the work, the Portuguese government bought a controlling interest in the company that owned the track. The Portuguese GP was listed on the 1998 calendar but was cancelled when the upgrading work could not be completed in time. Absence. On April 4, 2009, Max Mosley stated that based on the quality of the Autodromo International do Algarve circuit, the Portuguese Grand Prix could be integrated into the Formula One Championship, as long as a commercial agreement with the Formula One management is achieved. Winners of the Portuguese Grand Prix. Multiple winners in bolded teams are competing in the Formula One Championship in the current season. A pink background indicates an event which was not part of the Formula One World Championship. By year, a pink background indicates an event that was not part of the Formula One World Championship.